So I'm super happy that you're all here and still here. Some people are already left because this is actually our first public appearance, and we're working on this very closed for the last 5 months. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to sharing this experience with you all. I want to start super basic and get your blood moving a little bit. Who here owns cryptocurrency? Who has ever used an exchange? And who does technical analysis? And who here cares about fundamentals? Yeah? Okay, that's the most important question, because that's why I'm here. So at Blockdata, what we're doing is we're collecting and aggregating all the data for the next wave of institutional investors that, as we have heard so much about in the news, are waiting on the sidelines to put all of their money into the ecosystem. But as we know from the guy who started with the banking information, they don't really have any money. So right now, I'm not sure why we've done this, because we have no market, but we'll figure it out as we go along. I'm sure we're all familiar with this photo, and this is what's happening right now in the crypto ecosystem. In 2017, as we're all well aware, there was a absolute, there's the guinea kids, fuck ton of ICOs. And right now in 2018, we're seeing how they're developing. And simply put, I'm not sure if anyone here will disagree with me, but the quality of products that have been brought out, built upon blockchain technology, has been a little bit subpar so far. But we're all true believers. That's why we're here at Bitcoin Wednesday. And that's why we have built this company, because we want to really track and see how the blockchain ecosystem is going to evolve, not just over the last 6 months and simply dump some tokens, but we're actually in this for the next 10 to 20 years, because blockchain technology is here to change the world. And I also showed this photo because they say a photo is worth 1,000 words, but actually, sometimes someone says a demo is worth 1,000 presentations. So what I want to do is I actually want to show you what we've built so far. Now, I do have to give the pretense that this is an alpha, and what's there right now is nowhere near the finished product. You know what they say, if you're not embarrassed about the first time you showed something, that you're way too late? Well, that's definitely true, but we're still very, very proud of it. So what you see here is what is going to be the new kind of coin market cap, if you will. But instead of just looking at the ecosystem through market caps and prices, it's more important that you can actually see and understand the fundamentals behind the projects. So if I look here, I have a list of companies. I can scroll through the list. I can see some very, very simple information. And if I'm interested in, let's say, development platforms, that's actually what I'm going to look for. So here now, suddenly I'm shown with just a small selection of development platforms. And what I'm doing now is what we call internally the discovery process. So we're looking at the ecosystem, and we're trying to evaluate the different industries, sub-verticals, different products, and figure out what's in there. And when I'm looking at this list, what I can actually do is I can quickly hit this button, and then I can actually scan through the projects. Now I can see a little short review, I can understand their bio, see maybe whether they have any partnerships, and any social media links if I just want to go and quickly check it out. And this is what we're calling scanning. Now, this is all good and well, but you actually then want to see and verify that this is a project that you actually want to invest in. So if we pick one of these, we're going to pick Stratis right now. We get a more detailed view, and we find out some more information. What's their key objective? What is actually the company type? And we can see their team composition, maybe any advisors that they have. We can go and look at the token. We see that actually this is the core token for the Stratis blockchain, just as in Bitcoin, or is the core token for the Bitcoin blockchain. And going through, I can see a funding round as well as the products that Stratis is actually building. Now, that's where, right, so far we haven't really seen very many numbers. And that's because we're not looking at the market caps, but we're really trying to focus on what is the technology that these companies are building and how far are they. And everything that you see here is all relational in the back end. So if we actually go and just search for if we go just here, we can see that we have companies, products, and tokens. And let's say I'm looking for a ERC20 token. So on the right-hand side, I can go here and search for an ERC20 token. I want to check that this is actually used in a product, so I just hit yes. And I want it to be traded on Binance because I really like the referral system. I don't know. So here we're looking at tokens that is indeed fits that criteria. And I can again just quickly search. I'm going to use Luna, as this is also a little bit to do with content. And here we can see some more information and where that token is listed. In the future, as I said, this is the very basics right now. And as a company, we're focused really on, really focused on the qualitative information. So all the data that you've just seen, in total, there's only around 90 companies in our data set right now. But at the end of the day, we want to cover the entire ecosystem and every token. But we're not just doing this with technology. We actually have a team of researchers. Right now, there's just one. That's Lucas. He's sitting at the back. He's great. But that's where every single data point, we want to verify and make sure it's true. And I will tell you something. This is really open and honest. But the ecosystem right now is very poorly documented. And every single one of you has a little bit of a challenge when it comes to researching information. So, how does that actually look like? Well, what's the solution that we're bringing? So right now you can see that every single person is looking for product and token updates, going through social media, trying to keep up to date, reading through the white paper, the website, maybe looking at the GitHub, the documentation. Does everyone agree with me in here? Say yes? Hey, great. That's what we like at 10 o'clock on what day is it? Wednesday? Great. There we go. It's been a tough couple of days. No. And so in the future, you no longer have to do any of that because you can just go to Blockdata and all the information is there. And if it's not, you can simply press the little button that says, hey, we want this information, and we'll try and get it to you within 20 working days. In the future, we want this to be obviously 24 hours. So I'd like to introduce you to Bob. Now, Bob is actually also our CTO. Say, wave, Bob. But we came up with Bob a little bit before Bob joined us, very complex. And Bob for us is a researcher. Bob is each and every one of you. It might be Frank, Jim, Bobby, I don't know, whoever. And that's where the core reason why we started this company is we just saw that humanity right now is wasting a lot of time because every single one of you is going to the same project's websites, trying to find the same information time and time again, and even then when you read it, you don't even know if it's true. So that's where with Blockdata, we're just kind of removing this aspect and just doing it all for you so you can lead better lives and maybe spend time with your wives or girlfriends instead of researching crypto projects. I'm only going to look at certain people. So going back to what I explained in the process that researchers go through, that's where we have this discovery. You're searching. And we say that maybe once a week you spend an hour searching for a new project or validating an industry. Then you're scanning. So you're quickly trying to understand. You maybe go through their Twitter feed, feel whether the sentiment's good or not. Then you're going to validate, do the due diligence, look at the token economics. And then last but not least, you're also going to track. So I'm not sure if you saw in our platform, but there was loads of little hearts. So in the future, when you heart something that you like or is in your portfolio, when a data point changes, but not just if the token price has gone up, but if they've brought out a new product or they've checked off one of their roadmap items, we are going to send you a verified notification that says, hey, this is what happens, this is maybe important, so you no longer have to read it on the news or come across it accidentally on Medium. I'm sure we've all done that and gone, huh? I didn't hear about that. Completely disappeared from the ecosystem. It's great. So how does this help you? Well, Bitcoin is the new global currency, but in reality, there's always been one currency, and that's time. Everything always comes down to that. And we want to help people understand the ecosystem. And that's where right now everything's very fragmented. And that's why we've really taken a lot of care and attention into building our data structure. So we started, before we started the company, we asked 300 people to ask them what data they find important. And actually at this point, we've spoken to over 30 hedge funds and over 150 different large players in the ecosystem and had very two-way conversations with them and asked them, how can we help you and what data are you missing right now? And we want to keep you up to date. That's kind of a given. So what is our data and where are we going kind of in the future? So privately, or traditionally in private markets, in startups, you have seed rounds, angel rounds, and those things, and that's all the information that you have. But that's where blockchain companies are also kind of in the same phase where they're startups, and large companies like Bloomberg aren't so interested in that because they're just not big enough and they have really old people with beards, no offense, sorry. And so that's where the data that we're trying to track is the company. So what are they trying to do? The team, what are the aims of that company? Any funding information? Did they also raise seed funding before their ICO? What products are they doing and how far are those products? And in the future, how used are those products? So if you look at DApp Radar right now, hopefully going to be one of our partners, where you see the amount of Ethereum going through these dApps. This is a very important indicator to understand what's going on. As I said, roadmap items, very token specifics. We want to go into token use cases in the future. We want to look at the protocols. How many ERC20 tokens are on there right now and how many of them are used? Product usage, that's what I mentioned about Ethereum, and exchanges and wallets. Who supports what? Has it been checked that that is indeed true? So you kind of get the idea. I'm trying to not be too slow because I understand it's late. So that's where we get a lot of people asking us like, hey, that's an awesome idea, really great, but I want to buy from you, buy or sell signals. And we go, yeah, that's great, but if you have a shitty data set, which most people do right now, they're probably using something called proof of magic. And they probably go, or they open their speeches going, hey, hey, hey. But yeah, I will leave that up to everyone else. And also that there are reports focusing on analysis of certain tokens, and people want to read something and they just want to, at the bottom in green, which is buy, or sell, which is red. But that's where we want to kind of separate ourselves from that. In the future, we feel if you want to build those types of reports or signals, you can buy our data and do what you want with it. We just want to sit at the most fundamental level where we are this aggregator of all of this publicly available information. So that's where we focus on the objective data that has been cross-checked, that allows us to give very in-depth ecosystem overviews. Is any of you in data visualization? Yeah, so these types of things and the data that we'll be able to visualize in the future is going to be absolutely sick. Watch this space. And also direct comparisons like this one. So what we did, and we just did this as a test, a couple of months ago, where we took a couple of the development platforms, we stuck them on a sheet, verified the information. Lucas pulled his hair out because some of the information wasn't available, and it was a little bit traumatic. And then Niels, our kind of, head of branding, making everything look amazing like this is, right? It looks beautiful. Can we agree with that? And so that's where we made this, and I think it stopped at around here somewhere. And we somehow managed to reach 100,000 people on Twitter. And we were like, huh? Are we providing value to people here? So what we did is, thanks to some people who helped us a lot, who are in this room, we actually then added more platforms, did a lot more checks, and we reached 100,000 people again. So we're very confident that we're providing value to the ecosystem and that they're looking for this type of information, considering that we just did this as it's one of those ideas where you're at the bar and you're like, hey, maybe we should do this. And then we did it and it worked and we're like, hey, let's do it again. So one thing that I wanted to share with you this evening was we've spoken to hedge funds, as I mentioned, and also a lot of different actors. So I wanted to mention some things that we've kind of picked up on while having these conversations. Who here is a hedge fund or has worked with a hedge fund or is considering working for a hedge fund? Absolutely fucking awesome. No one. So that's where everyone is aware of hedge funds, right? Right? Yeah, okay. So that's where, from what we've had talking to them, is their strategies are far from fixed. They are evolving every month at the moment, or at least every 6 months, and the advice that they're giving to tokens that are coming to them is saying like, well, 6 months we would have told you this, but in reality, in this current market, we want to do it that way. So if you speak to anyone who is some form of crypto hedge fund, who are, they seem very rigid, then definitely move away from them because they are definitely not with the times. There is definitely a shift away from tokens and moving a little bit more to equity, and this is why, as was shared earlier about the security tokens, this is definitely interesting because who wants to sign a very boring document that really limits your equity to something that you have no liquidity to? So we really believe that this is something that's going to open up a lot of potential in the future. That also comes into lockup periods. I don't know who's here has invested in a pre-sale or pre-ICO. I don't know if you guys really fully understood the deal terms that you were getting versus the deal terms that all the other people were getting, but we've heard a couple of stories where there was definitely some shady shit going on. So that's where it's very important that you guys really understand, and there was a document that came out, or research, that said it was something like 50% of the top 50 ICOs, that even in their smart contracts, there was nothing about unlocking tokens at a certain time, but in their white paper, it said that it was in there. So that's where you guys have to be careful, and even if you think it's great, those were the very top ones, so be careful. Everyone says they're in a project for the long term. Not true. Everyone in the ecosystem wants to chat with the team. For me, this is a very inefficient use of time again, because everyone thinks they're special and everyone wants to speak to the members of the team to make sure that they can deliver on their promise. Well, going back to the horse photo, who has actually really delivered on their promise? It's a sketchy subject. Asia is something that is not to be forgotten about, and in reality, someone I was speaking to last week said, what takes us 3 weeks to make a decision here in Europe, the guys in Asia can do in like half a day. So that's where these guys are moving quick, and some people say due to regulation and blah, 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 that it's slowing down. This is not true. And for us, this is very important because we're actually going to have to get boots on the ground there, because blockchain is not just a technology that exists in English-speaking countries, but it exists on a global level. So our platform, our business, it's a SaaS product. You pay a subscription fee, you get access to it every month, you get more advanced features, yada, yada, yada. This is going to happen in the future. And we also have an API, and it's our aim not to charge people like you for the community access to our platform, but to make the institutions pay for it, because that's why focusing on the technology, there's a use case where the institutions can track what's happening and the types of technology that's evolving. We're almost done. And we just want to ensure that there's a reliable source to do those 4 fancy research things as usual. A little bit about us, and that's also something that I also wanted to mention. So we are based out of Amsterdam. We are a team of 4. We're super happy to be working together. We have like a star team. I think we have, in our team, we have someone that has been #1 in 19 different countries in the music industry. And that's where we have guys that have built brands that have reached millions of users. And that's where, we've just got to this point. As I said, 5 months. We're super happy to be here. We founded on the belief that there is a lack of truly objective data. We're bootstrapped so far. And on that note, we're closing our angel round at the moment. We still have one 50,000 euro slot available in the terms of a convertible note. If anyone here aligns with the vision and potentially wants to invest and come on this awesome adventure of tracking the blockchain ecosystem and work with awesome people, do talk to me afterwards. And this is what we want to do in the future, but I can also stop here because that's also perfectly fine. These are our social media links. We almost hit 500 followers on Twitter, so please follow us, because that would be really nice. And we really are going to build awesome shit, and I hope you use our platform in the future. Looking forward to any questions.
So that was very impressive, Jonathan. So back 2 slides. No?
Oh, that
Tell
one?
us about your future plans.
Okay. Thanks a lot, actually. It is important. I realized afterwards, I was like, fuck. So this year, so far in the first half of the year, we've been setting up this basic infrastructure. We've built everything from the ground up. We spent a lot of time arguing in the office. These are not discussions. These are arguments about how the data should be laid out. Then we started, well, now in the second half of the year, as I mentioned, we're closing our funding round, which allows us to hire a full-time research team somewhere in the world, not the Netherlands, too expensive. And then we're going to start working on integrating more data sources. So think of any single API that you've seen. And from our perspective, there's lots of APIs and data sources available, but they're all kind of small projects. If we can start to bring all of those under one roof, and that's the only thing that we focus on, we truly believe that we can be the best data source for blockchain-related information. Not pricing data, very important. Then we're going to start generating more and more insights, as you saw on the infographic. Then in 2019, we're going to start to supplement our human research with machine learning, so we can make the whole process a lot more efficient. But that's where we always want to check data with human eyes. I do not think that in the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to have fully automated solutions for this, because then we will sacrifice the quality of our data, and that does not fly when we have the ecosystem relying on us for this information. Then we want to cover the whole ecosystem, and then we want to have the full ecosystem and just have all of these insights and make awesome visuals. And if you carry on going, then it's like we go to the moon, and it's great. To the moon.
Any more questions? Some more? Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, Mike, first of all, thank you for this, because information is really important, and I think this is a really sort of important aspect in this space. I'm sure you're familiar with other projects that are attempted to deliver the same kind of thing, like an ICO bench or other kind of things. And one of the problems that they always have is that there's this obvious conflict of interest, because the coins or the companies who are researching obviously want to appear better than they actually are. And in the case of ICO bench, there's been a lot of reports of false kind of data. How are you going to deal with this sort of conflict of interest? So basically, how can we trust you to provide us with the right data?
So that's where, first and foremost, it's a core company value that we will never accept any form of paid promotion to advertise on our platform. As you saw there are no adverts on the platform, and there never will be, because if we do this, we've completely lost our trust. And that's where the branding and everything that you see is very clean and trying to be very minimalistic, because we want to ensure trust in the community. In terms of personally, that's where, yes, we are partakers in the crypto ecosystem, but none of us have anywhere near enough to change a life through the crypto assets. And in the future, we are considering maybe doing full disclosures of the assets that we own. Then there's the fact that all the data that we have in here is publicly verifiable. We do not allow projects to submit data to us. And if in the future that they really, really want to, because we've already had some questions, they always have to provide a public link where we can go and verify the information. And that's where if someone sends us something that's not publicly verifiable, it's very simple, it doesn't go in the data set, because that's not what the blockchain ecosystem is about. It's about transparency, it's about collaboration, it's about being open. But unfortunately, we are a centralized source, but that's where you can be hippie, sorry, that's a really bad word to use, about how you want to do this, and we could be community driven, but that's where if you really want the best data, we have to build a business out of it. There's a catch-22, unfortunately.
Yes. Hi. I was wondering, how are you going to scale your data input? Like, if you add a new feature and you have 10K project listed, you have to put the data in for 10,000 projects. So, are you also using community input for it, or?
Yeah. So we do want to stay away from community input for the time being. Again, we may consider other alternatives in the future. For example, tokenization. It's maybe you've heard about it. Then, in terms of how we can scale the data team, that's where it comes back to the business part. 10,000 companies, it sounds like a big number, but from the numbers that we've ran, we feel that if we can hit certain revenue targets, we can pay for a team of people all the way up to a fairly substantial number, as long as we ensure that they're educated in the right way, we make sure we have checks in, that we can cover the entire blockchain ecosystem, at least for the next, let's say, 2 years. And that's where the technology then comes into play, that we can make that process much more efficient and, for example, do auto-suggestions and just checks and crosses.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries, thank you. And thank you!